Marcus looked at Taurus and smiled wryly. So, who else am I going to get into this little party? What kings or queens must I host in my humble abode? Right, I forgot about that. Let's see. King Edward VI of the Mountain Elves to the far east. There's King Valerian of the Snow Elves, Taurus replied. Okay, so how do I get all of them in one place without violence? Marcus asked, typing at a console. We have several rights I can use to call a moot. It's reserved for catastrophes or emergencies and such. I think this qualifies. If I do use the right, it will take about 2 weeks for everyone to arrive. Taurus explained with the calm demeanor of a ruler. Too slow. Reinforcements will be here in 2 days. The delegation will be here in 4. Any way we can speed this up? Marcus asked as he looked at his console. Taurus and Thorn looked at each other and pointed at the small frigate nearby. We can use those to collect the leaders for the moot, after which we can have our moot, figure out what to do, and go from there, Taurus said. My village is closest. We can host everyone needed, Thorn said, receiving a squeak of excitement from Ceres. Works for me, Marcus said. Now since you're here, let's get started. Let's see what the factory needs to be doing instead of weapons production. Excuse me, Taurus said in shock. The room suddenly darkened, and a holographic view of the planet appeared. This was the first time that anyone had ever seen the world in its entirety, and all the Eves couldn't help but beam with pride as their home flashed in front of them. Okay, so Ceres's village is there, Marcus said, putting a bright pin on the location of Eris's village on the world. The image zoomed in, allowing views to such an extent one could see the tiles on roofs. And the palace is there, 15 miles away. There's 6 more villages in the vicinity and some kind of wall structure near a huge canyon. Breakridge, home of the Canyon Elves. I forgot about them. Yeah, we need to talk to them too, Taurus said. Okay, this moot thing. How many kingdoms and subsects do you people have here? Marcus asked, frustrated yet again. It's been a while since we needed to care to know. Since humans went extinct, we kind of stopped caring about our other kin. Since then, we have fractured, dissipated, and walked away, settling other lands and creating new families. We don't need to worry, though. The moot is a specialized spell that caters only to leadership. Once I cast the right, all of them will be around, Taurus replied. Well, at least you got that going for you. Let's see. Ah, here we are. Behold the factory, Marcus said, scrolling through the hologram. The image shocked the entire group to no end. What they saw around them was but a minuscule fraction of the factory's total size, with the entire thing covering the whole continent. But Ceres, ever conscious about her tree friends, had a question. What are those small forests, and what are those huge buildings in them? Ceres asked, pointing to patches of green among the ocean of steel. Air purifiers. The factory produces a few toxins during the manufacturing process and refining process, as all industry does. In order to ensure I don't turn the entire planet into a smog-covered garbage patch, I had to make sure to keep the pollution in check. Turns out your trees and forests really like my air purifiers, so they grow around them like weeds, Marcus replied. Oh, wow, Ceres said with a big smile. Marcus simply raised an eyebrow and tried to ignore the suddenly flirty elf and continued scrolling. Right. Here's the oil refinery. Here's the coring mine. That will be shut down, though. Here's the surface mines for iron, copper, coal, stone, and a few others like aluminum and zinc. Here's one you will like, a gold mine. And here's the main rail yard for logistics operations, among other things. Questions? He said, pointing out all of the points of interest. How long have you been here? Jacqueline asked. About 8 months if you count the initial startup. This is nothing, though. I know engineers who can speed run this shit and can build factories 4 times this size in less than 2 weeks, Marcus said. Everyone gasped in sheer terror. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with this part. Ahem, Marcus said, clearing his throat loudly. No, we don't strip mine planets or entire star systems. No, all production is based exclusively on being environmentally friendly, hence the air purifiers. No, we aren't allowed to interfere with local populations or build factories or anything on populated planets. That is, in fact, illegal. I've done this before, Marcus replied proudly, displaying his factory. The elves simply looked at him with shock, silent for several minutes. In any case, come, mine kingliness. What exactly do you need? The factory is ready for reconstruction, and I have new tech available. Start talking, Marcus said. Taurus snapped himself out of his shock and stood thinking for a bit. Let me think. Biggest concerns we have are, stuff that you can solve, I think. Food stores. We had a bad winter and some of our food storage was damaged due to avalanches and landslides. Poor planning on our part. We can weather the storm, not necessarily comfortably, but I'd rather not worry about it. Think you can fix that? I was not informed we had food store issues. My lord, Thorne said with concern. I didn't want to concern everyone, especially with the harvest festival coming. I was going to say that after the festival we had just a bit too much fun and start rationing supplies until the next harvest. Parley with the canyon elves for their stores and maybe use that as an excuse to get a bit closer with our cousins. 2 birds, 1 stone, as the phrase goes. The king replied with a sly smile. Smart. Ultimately unnecessary. Let's see where that BP database at... Here it is. Farming complex with greenhouses and growth accelerators. Gonna also need the waste management plants, water purifiers, and a few others, and... Done, Marcus said. Done. Just like that, Jacqueline said. Just like that. Gonna be a day or two to get production actually going at a steady pace until I can rebuild the logistics network. By the end of the week, we should have... Let me calculate this. 2 tons of nutrient blocks, 3 tons of ration packs, and half a ton of synth meat. Marcus started to talk while typing. Doesn't seem much, my lord. We will have to... Now I can remove the entire drone manufacturing network and weapons production. And I can add in another 15 production complexes to that... Total production is about 60 tons per hour. You don't need to worry about food for a very long time. Still, my food is probably not as good as the local stuff for obvious reasons, so I'd recommend using my stuff as a supplement to the diet and not as a staple. It's cheap and used for emergencies, not as a base diet. My best recommendation is to use it in stews and soups, Marcus said. He moved over to the wall unit and acquired 3 items, handing them over to the king. 1 was a slab of meat steak wrapped in plastic film, 1 was a small thumb-sized cube, and the 3rd was a paper-like box with the word rations printed on it. Best used all together or supplemented with other items like fresh veggies and fruits, especially soups and stews and the like. The nutrient cubes are tasteless and can last in storage untouched for centuries, but contain everything you need to survive. The ration packs are single full meals designed for military servicemen to survive in dangerous environments without compromising the food. The meat is entirely synthetic and packed with proteins and minerals for nutrition, but still, the stuff Mother Nature makes is best for everyone one way or another, Marcus said with a smile. Thorne? Yes, Your Majesty, Thorne replied, standing to attention. Prepare an edict for the kingdom. Make sure they know what this stuff is. This will fix so many problems. But I shall need a favor from you, Marcus. I shall owe you for this one, big time, Taurus said, looking at Marcus with seriousness in his voice. Sure, I'll cash in on that favor eventually, Marcus replied with a chuckle. You mine things. If gold and silver are on the list of things you mine, I would like some of it. He half asked, half begged. Sure, will 60 tons suffice for now? Marcus replied in kind. The group gasped in shock again. This time, Saris and Jacqueline both fainted at the mention of so much damn gold. Marcus smiled and chuckled in a most sadistic fashion as he brought up a video feed of his ship's cargo hold, showing a picture of pallets of ingots 2 stories high, packed neatly on shelves. Iron, steel, copper, zinc, platinum, even bars of plastic and silicon stacked neatly in a warehouse secured with straps and bars for travel. The camera panned over the stacks, showing 2 separate sections for gold and silver. The silver pile was twice the size of the gold pile, ingots the size of a grown man's arm, 4 pallets per stack, 2 stories high. Thorne passed out in shock, and the king began to hyperventilate at the sight of so much wealth. You give us this for nothing? Oh, gods, the king gasped. Not for nothing, you owe me a favor after all, but yeah, help thyself, sir. 280 tons of gold bullion, 640 tons of silver bullion. Frankly, to me, it's almost worthless. Copper and iron are my gold and silver. These are used for some minor advanced circuitry, but it's not that useful to me. Again, help thyself, Marcus said. The king hyperventilated a bit more, then passed out alongside Thorn, making a noise like a mouse being stepped on as he hit the floor. Marcus laughed loudly and sat on a nearby chair, resuming his factory building. Why is that so funny? Just show them tons of gold and silver and they collapse. It's hilarious. Just like when we went to that planet where civilization was like the 1930s. Open a cargo hold full of gold and it's like, Ermagerd! Squee! Thunk! It never stops being funny. Marcus sat quietly at his console for the next 2 hours, occasionally looking at the group of passed-out elves and chuckling to himself. After a bit of fiddling, Marcus had completely rebuilt the entire factory. It was now producing tons of food, ingots, and parts for future use, storing it all in massive warehouses. By the time the king started waking up, the warehouses storing gold and silver had tripled their total amounts. "Oh, my aching head," Taurus said as he started getting up off the floor. "Welcome back to the land of the living. Did you enjoy your cold linoleum floor?" Marcus said with a hearty chuckle. "Absolute bastard! You enjoyed doing that, didn't you?" he said and cradled his aching head. "Well, I have to have my fun somehow, don't I? Anyway, the factory was rebuilt. Have everything set for new projects and stuff. Pretty much ready to go. On your order," Marcus replied and moved towards Thorn, patting his face to wake him up. 60 tons! 60! The king yelled to himself as he sat down on a nearby chair. 684 actually since you passed out. But that's pretty much all I can get for now. Gonna have to make do," Marcus replied with a sadistic grin. Was all the king could say, his yell reminiscent of a certain meme. His loud vocalization woke Saris and Jacqueline up, and the two hastily stumbled to their feet as Thorn snapped out of his own astonished stupor. "I only need a few coins to pay off some debts, 5 kilograms at maximum. You offer me 60 tons, I will never be able to pay back this favor. This is too much, too much!" he yelled out in frustration. "Not really. Remember what I said? If I give it to you, I also got to give it to everybody else. So, technically, I'm doing everyone a favor, not just you. Equal treatment. That also means the food supplies go to them, too. Everyone gets their fair share. If anybody says, give to me but not them, nobody gets anything at all. Simple," Marcus said, handing the king a glass of water. You don't understand this world's economy. A family of 10 can live comfortably for 20 years on little more than 50 gold coins. You're willing to give us the equivalent of millions of sovereigns for a favor?" Taurus said with a furrowed brow. "Oh, my aching head. Well, that's excellent then. To me, gold and silver are practically useless. So, help thyself, as I said. My ships, well, you saw how big the factory is. This ship, it's all from 5 ingredients. Iron ore, copper ore, coal, stone, and a little piece of asteroid rock known as hexalon, all of which are absurdly abundant in the universe. Gold and silver, generally byproducts of mining the other 5. All of that is put into a complex chain of manufacturing, alloying and purifying, and turned into what's needed." Marcus replied with a chuckle and returned to the console to keep working. By this point, Thorn was tending to the 2 girls, who had bruises from their landing on the floor, by using his healing magic. The 2 were still a bit dizzy from the excitement, and Thorn approached. "I need a lift back to my village, and the king must get started with his duties. We have to cut this short, but thank you for what you've already done," Thorn said and bowed his head. "No problem any time. Just let me know if you need anything. Cures for diseases, food stores, metal ingots, anything. Just remember, if one of you gets it, everyone does, too." Marcus replied with a smile and headed towards the hangar bay. "What about the maidens?" the king asked. "Leave them there for now. They are still a bit shocked. I'll bring my daughter back for supper later. First port of call is the mountain elves. I shall lead the way. I shall need to make a landing pad of sorts for that whirly bird machine you have." Thorn said, thinking. "No need for that. I put that away hours ago. Come on, I'll show you the Whitehall-class frigate. Should be to your royal standards, at least. Have to make our guests and their retinue feel cozy. And look, there's your guardsman, your majesty. Guy's been here the whole time receiving messages from those birds. Yo, buddy, you going home, get moving! Marcus yelled out at the king's paladin that had been standing vigilant at the hangar door all this time. Ha, forgot about you, sorry about that. You missed lunch, man, must be hungry. Here, have a protein bar, Marcus said and handed the soldier a bar of chocolate. The paladin looked at the king quizzically, asking wordlessly for permission to eat. The king simply nodded in response and waited for Marcus to work. He pressed a series of buttons on a console, and loud mechanical clanging and whirring followed as a large sailing ship-sized machine was brought to the front of the hangar. This one was very different from any other Marcus had. Sleek, sexy design with sharp edges and smooth contours painted a glossy blue and white with gold and silver trimmings and details. The Whitehall-class diplomatic frigate, tailor-made for use as a transport or neutral meeting ground for dignitaries and officers, 200 meters in length, displacing 11,000 tons, room for 200 people in comfort. Please come aboard, Marcus said with glee and waved everyone inside.